night did the whole world seem new to me. You're really swell, I've gotta admit. You deserve expressions that really fit you. And so I've racked my brain, hoping to explain all the things that you do to me. Bij mir bist du schön, bij mir hast du geen. Bij mir bist du einer auf der Welt. Auf der Welt, bij mir bist du Kind. Bij mir hast du it. Bij mir bist du tired von Geld. Wie schön der Mensch.
I know. How come I don't hear me? Oh, there I am. Okay. I don't know. I was in the wrong button right there. Okay. Now I hear me. All right. If you were wondering who that is, you're probably trying to guess who that is. You might have guessed Streisand, right? It sort of has a Streisand-ish sound to her voice. She's been with us before, and she's been in Ocala before. Joy Katzen-Guthrie is who you were just listening to right there, and she is coming to our town. She will be performing on Sunday, October 13th at Temple Beth Shalom, and she's on the phone, and we've been making her wait. I'm so sorry, Joy. Good morning, Joy. How you doing?
I'm just fine, and it's great to be with you.
I'm telling you, 5 weeks in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
you.
Always
an honor.
5 weeks in the studio. You'd think I would know how to use the new buttons by now. I don't know what it sounded like on the air.
Technical things have a way of getting. I was telling Robin that I'm married to a gearhead. I'm married to a broadcast engineer. And so I have lots of experience with the technical stuff, and we have our own recording studio, and there's always a lot of gear and a lot of technical things happening around here. And I scratch my head all the time, like, that worked yesterday, why is today it not doing the same thing?
Right.
All I want to do is press that button and have it work. But my husband will analyze the whole process of it. So I totally get where you're at.
There you go. So in other words, when he's listening to this and he goes, "That guy's in radio," and you have to say, yeah, he's a broadcast. He is not you.
Well, right, and absolutely, he has an engineering viewpoint. What do I want to say? Opinion. On everything that happens. So, but then I do from a musical perspective. So I guess we all do from somewhere.
So is it fair to say opposites attracted in your case?
That's true. You know, it works hand in hand with the music, so it's very it works out very well for me.
You know, we first were introduced to you and your music when Rabbi Sam Berman was still around. He's since passed away.
Some years ago.
So it does, a lot of time has passed, but the legacy he left is in part includes you because we got to know you because of that relationship we had with Sam and of course with Dale. Where are you? Where are we calling, or where are you calling from?
I live in Palm Harbor, which is part of the Tampa Bay area, and I'm immediately south of Tarpon Springs. So I'm over right on the west coast, just on the southern border of Tarpon Springs is where Palm Harbor is. So I'm about, if I would drive to you, I'm about 2.5 hour drive away.
Right. Did you cringe when I compared you to Streisand?
Well, no, I not necessarily. It's a great compliment. I mean, goodness, if you want to be compared to someone, you can't you can't complain about being compared to Streisand. I'm honored.
But I guess the reason I'm asking that because you're established in your own right, and you really shouldn't be compared to anybody at this point in your career.
It is natural to compare, any artist with others. And it is, I think it is a common complaint that I hear from all artists, as well as myself, that we perceive ourselves uniquely. We see ourselves as distinctive performers, and there's no question that we are inspired by and we're influenced by everything that we hear and see that has come before us and that we see around us. That is currently popular. You can't help being influenced by that. And of course, we're going to remind people of certain things. And it is natural to kind of seek out, well, she sounds a bit like this.
I know.
People compared me to everything from Helen Reddy to Janis Joplin, which is
no. All right. No.
Is there anything in common between Helen Reddy and Janis Joplin? But there is something there's something vocally, there's something in the performance that reminds people of something. And
I
it's
guess
a great
so.
honor to be compared, but at the same time you roll your eyes because you think, well, I really sound like that. But it's a wonderful compliment. Nobody is saying, she sounds kind of like that awful singer down the street.
Oh, yeah, right. but here's the thing.
So if you're comparing me to Streisand, I am honored. Thank you
Joy,
so much.
if you're ever around a couple guys that are arguing sports, that's exactly what would have happened because I'm not a sports guy. I'm more into music. So if I was with another guy and we were arguing music and he was saying you sounded like Helen Reddy, oh man, that would be like two sports guys going at it. You gotta be kidding. There's no Helen Reddy in there at all.
Well, and it's funny how many people will hear something similar, and I'm not even sure what it is. Like, what is it they're hearing? Because there isn't, I know technically, there is not the same vocal range or there isn't the same vocal timbre, but they're hearing something, perhaps in the way I pronounce things or perhaps in the way I phrase things. Perhaps there is a quality, a certain element of the timbre that reminds them of someone. And it's very funny to me at times because I myself do not necessarily hear it, but I've had many people say, well, they hear this or that, and it's always meant as a compliment.
I'm going to use that as a way to go to a different part of the conversation, but it's kind of the same topic, really, if you think about it. When I listen to music that is categorized as Jewish music, there is a sound, maybe it's a chord progression or there's something similar about the songs that makes them feel that way, even if I don't even know the song. And I could be wrong sometimes. I might listen to a Greek song, for example, and think it's a Jewish song, so I don't always get it right. But, 80% of the time, maybe I can say that sounds... And I'm not talking because the language is in there. Let's say just the melody. There is something about that, too, right?
There is, and you are hearing elements that are consistent, and not across the board, but certainly much of the time.
Yeah.
So some of the things that you're hearing that are consistent include the modes, that is the scales, the grouping of notes. You're hearing, and it does depend on the part of the world. When you say the term Jewish music is so large because Jews have lived in every part of the globe.
Really.
So you are dealing with many cultures. But here in America, most Jews, and that's interesting too, because in early American history, most Jews were Sephardic. They came from Spain, Portugal, England,
sure,
and similar. But
and you know what Sam Berman liked to point out? Sam Berman liked to point out that White Christmas is a Jewish song.
That's right.
Right. Well, yes.
Because Irving Berlin wrote it.
And many of them are.
Yeah.
And since the
Kodachrome is a Jewish song.
Yeah.
Yes. And since the late 1800s, most Jews in America have come from Eastern Europe. They have come from a Russian, Polish, German heritage. And so they have different melodies that reflect their heritage. And so when we think of Jewish music in America, it can be different from the way people may think of Jewish music elsewhere. But it has that kind of Eastern European sound. Yes, there is an element of the Russian, of the Slavic tradition there. But also there are certain modes that are consistent with synagogue music since ancient times. Jewish music does have certainly Jewish liturgical music, and much Jewish folk music has within it elements of, that is, combinations of notes and scales that are thousands of years old and that have been passed on originally orally from generation to generation, and then they were written down. And because they were present, they're still being recreated today. So we have those elements, and you hear them. Many people say, well, it's the minor scale. It's a little bit more than that. A minor scale is a certain grouping of notes. A Jewish synagogal scale has partial units from a minor scale.
Oh, really?
It has differences that specifically identify it as a synagogal.
Is that right? Wow, that's interesting.
So yes, you're hearing things that sound similar. And they are passed from generation to generation, and they're recreated century after century. And then so many of the popular composers of America, especially, but all around the world, especially in American popular music tradition, were Jewish. They came from the old world. They came here. They went into, and I enjoy talking about that, they went into music because music was a low societal career in those times. These were people who came over without knowing English. They couldn't get white-collar work. Most of them were immigrants. They didn't know the language. And they weren't of an element of society that could work immediately in white-collar fields. So they went into professions where they were welcomed, and that included the merchant business. So many of them created stores and general goods, and so they became entrepreneurs in that aspect.
That's an interesting aspect of it, though, is that it was not like nowadays you can get rich overnight if you have a hit record. Well, there was no records. There wasn't even publishing of sheet music
No, there wasn't. Yes. And that is something that they helped develop. They helped develop the Tin Pan Alley industry because they began to observe that the people who were buying their music, which was originally sheet music that they sold individually, there were no sheet music stores, there was no organized publishing business yet of sheet music, and of course no recorded music industry yet, but they saw that the public seemed to like certain subjects and certain sounds, and they began to create music that catered to that, and then they created their own publishing houses, and then they became active in every element of the business.
Joy Katzen-Guthrie is our guest. Hold on just a second, Joy. Let me reintroduce you for our listeners. There is a concert happening in our town that I want you to know about, and Joy is going to be the performer. It's going to be on Sunday, October 13th at 3:30 in the afternoon at Temple Beth Shalom, and that is at 1109 Northeast 8th Avenue. Tickets are only $10, so you can't beat the deal, and it's a very intimate venue, if you want to call a synagogue a venue, I guess. In this case, it will be. And we've got actually 2 tickets. We'll give them away at the end of the interview. We have a couple of just simple questions I think about, and you're educating us, and I love that. But I wanted to ask you a couple of things, like Shirat Hainfest. What is that, and am I saying it wrong?
Shirat HaNefesh.
HaNefesh.
Meaning HaNefesh. And Nefesh is the Hebrew word for soul. Shirat, a word for song. There are several. So Shirat HaNefesh, Song of the Soul.
Okay, all right.
Which is what I'm calling the concert, which is really intended as a general catch-all term to refer to the fact that we really wanted to create a concert that would touch on all kinds of Jewish music. So this is really going to be a journey through Jewish music, and it will include elements from Israeli, from liturgical, from Yiddish, which is European in its foundation. It will contain elements and American Jewish music. And I'll probably have a little time because it's sort of a summary concert. It will, or survey, as it were, concert. It will have so much different music in it, but I'll have a little time also for perhaps some examples from Broadway and film that are not necessarily Jewish in their sound, but they're created by Jewish writers, and they carry on the same theme. Much Jewish music deals with peace and with creating a better world, and that's sort of an ongoing theme throughout Jewish tradition, ancient and modern. And so I'll connect with that some examples of music from Broadway and film that are modern but carry on those same themes that are very important to Jews.
And you just don't sing. You also use this as a chance to preserve the history by verbalizing those historical gems, because you're not just carried away in the song itself, but you are interested in making this very historical.
Yes, absolutely. People have searched over the years for what to call that, because I've had many people tell me how much they love that I tell about the music, and what do you call that? Because it's not exactly, it's sort of edutainment, it's sort of infotainment, it's sort of a retrospective through time I guess I call it an edu-concert, but it's really sharing the history of the music and how it was written and something about the writers. Just a few things about the songs that help bring them to life, give them a new sense of purpose and history when you hear them. Knowing something about the music you hear gives it a whole new life. It's one thing to love a song, we all do, there's much music we love, and you know something about how the writer created it or why, or something deeper than that connects it to its time. Many of these songs are a reflection of the time in which they were created, and the era has so much to say about the experience of the people who wrote them and who listened to them then, as well as how we experience them today. So songs are living beings. They change over time. They continue to live. And where they came from and where they're going it gives it a whole new life to listen to them. So that's something I really love to share.
Joy, I have another one queued up. Let me play a little bit of this one. And could you hear the first one as it was playing on the air? I hope you could.
I could.
Okay. Let's
By
just...
Near Bis to Shame, which of course is an example of a song from the American Popular Songbook, but it's one of those rare cases where a Yiddish song became a mainstream hit. As sung by the Andrews Sisters, but it was written for the Yiddish theater. It has an interesting story.
The one that's queued up is Hina Matov. Am I saying that right?
You're close. Hine Matov, which means how good it is. Hine Matov Umanayim, how good it is and how pleasant. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad, that we live together as brothers. It is written in the masculine, but it refers to all humanity.
All right, let me play a little bit of it.
People come together joyfully and live together. How good and pleasant it is.
One of these days, you got to come into the studio and do this.
I would love that.
All right, here, let me just play a little bit of this. We're not done yet. I just want to hear a little bit of this, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
That is really beautiful.
Beautiful voice.
That is so awesome. That is Joy Katzen-Guthrie. She is our guest right now, and she's coming to Ocala. She'll be at Temple Beth Shalom Sunday, October 13th at 3:30. And if I could take a moment right here and ask that if I have two, for one person out there that would like the 2 tickets that I have, just call me right now, and we'll put them aside. You can come pick them up here at the new studios here at the Paddock Mall. Do you realize how beautiful that is? I mean, it's you. I mean, can you listen to your own music and say, wow, that's beautiful?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that compliment. And I guess like all artists, there are times when I hear the voice and I hear the music and it says something beautiful and I love it. And there are other times I listen and all I hear are the flaws. So, but
Man, I don't hear any.
That recording, I do love what I do. I'm blessed to be able to make music, to create music, to record music, to play piano and to sing, and to share this with many people. And that's truly a gift, and I feel very blessed to do it. And I think I have a voice with a lovely quality, and I'm a super perfectionist, and I'm always seeking ways it can be better. But it truly touches me when people hear it and it means something to them, and they enjoy it. That's an example of a folk melody. And actually, as the recording continues, I go into another folk melody. But those are examples of how liturgical phrases or verses from Scripture or Talmudic tradition, that is the commentary on Scripture, have been placed to music and sung over the years. So it's a melody that would be very familiar to Jews and is sung all over the world. But these folk melodies can be taken and interpreted in many ways, and many people have taken that statement from liturgy and have put other music to it. So it's an example of a verse that has been sung in many, many ways and is still being recreated year after year by many artists.
Sure.
Just a simple phrase, but one that still speaks centuries later. It still has the same power.
Joy, you are definitely a joy. I'm guessing everybody says that to you, and so I'm not being original, but I definitely love speaking to you, and definitely looking forward to one day. Well, now this is, I think this may be our third on-air conversation.
Yeah, I think so.
You're always you come into Ocala, every one of these interviews, but you're not in the studio. We've got a brand new studio right in the Paddock Mall.
Oh, how wonderful.
How about that, huh?
How wonderful.
So next time you come here, come into the studio. It would be awesome to be able to meet you in person. We fell in love with your music all those years ago, and you just continued to dazzle us with your beautiful voice. The concert, again, is only $10 for adults, $7 for children 13 and under. And I guess you would call Joseph at 208-3031 for details. And let's see, one word I wanted you to define for me. Diaspora. What is that?
Diaspora is the word. Well, it is the word for that refers to the dispersal of the people. Actually, could refer to any people, not just Jews, but the New World, as it were. But it is a word that refers through time. So as Jews left their original homelands in the Middle East and then were dispersed, and that was through a series of events over a series of centuries, but certainly after the fall of the Second Temple in the year 70 of the Common Era, Jews dispersed into Europe and throughout the world, and the term referring to that is diaspora.
All right, we are.
So in this case, it's music from all over the world, Jewish life all over the world, both in Israel, their homeland, as well as the diaspora, the world that through which they disperse.
Joy, thank you so much. We are up against the clock. I wish we could speak longer. Joy Katzen-Guthrie, thank you for being on the air. I'm going to end with the third song that you sent me. I apologize for the technical issues we had at the beginning. Your husband is going to say, gosh, he could have got it.
No, I assure you he won't. He will say, oh, I understand that.
Thank you for being on the air. Be careful driving up here, and see if we can figure out a way maybe next time when you're coming up to get you into the studio.
I would love that, and you've been so kind to have me on. Thank you so much. It's been a delight to be with you.
And for the listeners, let's see. Well, let's send them to your website. What is your website?
Our website is and it's easy to remember, joyfulnoise.net. With the W's are not Joyful Noise, just as it sounds. JOYFULNOISE.net.
Joyfulnoise.net. Okay, excellent. Joy Katzen-Guthrie, you are awesome. Thank you so much for being on the air with us today.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll end with one of her songs, and we'll be right back.
To the riders who have shared the vision, inspiring mine in turn, my heart pours out its thanks and deep affection. For the music I am blessed.
Habitat for Humanity of Marion County is a ministry dedicated to improving lives by providing affordable and decent housing. Help them help others by visiting the Habitat for Humanity Ocala home store on Northwest 27th Avenue. To schedule a donation, give them a call and